The refocus of our diocesan mission strategy that this convention voted on in 2009 had as a key component of it an emphasis on children, youth, and young adults. And indeed, our diocese has spent a great deal of resources over the last decade encouraging efforts with these age groups. Now we're ready to expand these initiatives even further. And this campaign is going to enable that expansion as we come to build a church that is relevant, dynamic, and draws in young people. We're going to invest $5.5 million to expand the Life Together program to locations across this diocese, to grow international leadership mission trips for our college students, to strengthen our current college chaplaincies around Greater Boston, and explore new opportunities for campus ministry at community colleges and other locations across this Commonwealth. Now please welcome Natalie Finstad, a former Life Together intern, who will share with you how her year in the program has enabled her to be a healer both locally and internationally.
So I grew up in Texas, which is pretty far south, in a house full of women. I'm the oldest of 5 sisters. And we did everything Texas. I mean, hair, makeup, Barbies, the whole bang. And we were constantly arguing over the bathroom mirror. And the other thing we argued over was my parents' attention, because there were 5 of us, especially my father's. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that his depression really prevented him from ever showing us that he loved us. And as a child, though, I didn't have that insight. And so I spent my young years yearning for his love. And I ended up trying to be just the best daughter I could be. And not only the best daughter, the best student, even the best Christian. And when all of my friends were leaving church and college, I instead ran right towards it and joined this rock band evangelical church that promised me that if I just worked hard enough, I would feel loved. So I exhausted myself, Bible studies, up at 5 to pray, memorizing verses, leading small groups, feeding the homeless, and nothing worked. So I left church. And I only came back because one of my friends, Kirsten, was baptizing her baby. I ran in late to that service, but just in time to hear the Episcopal congregation pledge to honor the dignity of every human being. And as the words of our baptismal covenant echoed off those walls, my heart just stopped. And I realized that they were even talking about me. And it's been 6 years since then. I was confirmed as an Episcopalian right here by Bud, who's not here anymore, and which is really excited about saying that. And 2 years ago was part of the Life Together program. Life Together is a program that puts young adults in a house and asks them to live, work, and pray together, all in the hopes of knowing God. That's us. And through crazy nights of prayer and endless conversation and home-cooked meals, 20 strangers transformed into real-life companions on Christ's way. And in addition to building relationships, we also built our capacity through leadership training. Life Together provides intense leadership training for its participants that enables us to go out and serve in this diocese. Which one of y'all has had a Life Together in your midst? Anyone? We're all over the place. We run food pantries in Cambridge, high school programming in Lynn, and expand the reach of nonprofits. My first experience with Life Together was part of the 9/11 day of service. And I will never forget the day that Arrington and Noah asked me to do the job. I was so excited. I ran out, immediately called my mom on the phone, yelling that I had the best job in the world. But underneath that excitement was that sense of fear that I talked about. I just didn't know if I was going to be good enough. Thankfully, through your support, we saw over 400 people turn out that day to serve. But more so, that opportunity gave me a chance to not just become someone who was good enough to be in church, but someone who was powerful and capable of achieving God's mission. And that is not just my story, that's the Life Together story. Young adults are given a place to transform and feel compelled to take that power out into the world. Here are Ben Whaley and Caroline Hunter, who registered voters in Arizona to prevent racial discrimination, and Catherine Kendrick, who now works in the Diocese of Alabama, taking our radical welcome to a still highly segregated community. And right here, Rachel Pettengill has revived a dormant Tufts collegiate program. I spent the last year in Kenya, where I started an organization called Be the Change. And Be the Change uses the very same tools I learned in Life Together to address local poverty. And through our work, Lisa, who is one of our interns in Kenya, started a health clinic that treated 60 children, one of them being Ruth, who hadn't received treatment in 4 years. That's Ruth. The good news is that we're making an impact, and the only reason that I'm able to see that impact is because of Life Together. And then the not so good news is that there's homelessness, segregation, hunger all over this world. And the one thing I know is that as a church, we are called to be part of the solution to that problem. And that is why it is imperative that we continue the work of Life Together. And that we take this experience to expand the programs. Because whether we're talking homelessness in Boston or hunger in Nairobi, the world is hurting. And the hope of Life Together is that it not only addresses the needs that we can see, but it takes young adults and transforms them into powerful agents that can take that healing out into our world. Thank you.
Where did you hear your congregation's story and Natalie's story? For me, it brings up the memories of when I was a Micah intern 11 years ago today, which led me to this place and to the priesthood. Additionally, for my own parish, Grace Church in Medford, where, as Natalie mentioned, we used a Life Together intern to help us radically expand our outreach programs, especially around issues of local hunger and food insecurity. And then later, that same Life Together intern helped us to restart the Protestant chaplaincy at Tufts University, which I'm proud to say now serves over 75 students each week through our programs and our worship. What could your parish do with a Life Together intern? How could the Life Together program benefit your congregation? Perhaps with a Life Together house in your area, an intern could help build your congregational life through getting a food pantry started, or help you to address issues of affordable housing. An intern can help you with all of that and much more. As a diocese, the possibilities for healing the world that Life Together interns could help enable are only limited by our resources and our imaginations. As a diocese, one of the great celebrations over the last decade was the building and dedication of the Barbara C. Harris Camp and Conference Center. We had a dream, and we came together, and we made it happen. And I hope that many of you have had a chance to visit the camp, maybe this last summer. Maybe you visited as a camper. Maybe, like me, you served as a chaplain. Or maybe you sent kids from your parish. If you have, you know the stories of healing that take place at the Barbara C. Harris Camp and Conference Center year in and year out. Healing that takes place through finding God's presence in nature and fun, through silence and through community. Well, we're going to take $2 million from this campaign and ensure that our initial investment in the camp is preserved by investing in the endowment and in also infusing the camp with some current use program money as our programs continue to grow. And additionally, we're going to honor our beloved Bishop Budd by turning a house that's right on Otter Lake into a green, environmentally friendly, personal retreat center. Right now, I want to welcome Elizabeth Walther-Grant, a member of Christ Church in Andover, who's going to tell you the story of how camp led her to a deeper commitment to her parish and to her faith.
Hi. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold, so if I sound a little scratchy, that's why. Okay. I grew up at Grace Episcopal Church in Lawrence. Growing up there when I was little was great. This Sunday school was always fun, and there were tons of kids for me to play with. I remember great big Christmas pageants, and I was always an angel because I love those big sparkly wings that I got. You know, just like coming down the aisle with my big sparkly wings, thinking I ran the place. As the years went by, fewer and fewer kids attended church due to families moving away or switching churches. Soon, it was just me and my brother. And as much as I love my brother, it's my brother. It wasn't that bad because we both acolyted together and we carried the candles behind the cross. But when my brother was 16, my mom gave him the choice whether or not to continue going to church, and he decided against it. So I was by myself in a church full of people that were over 30, although most were over 50. And as much as I loved going to church, it wasn't fun anymore, and I was alone. And as a youth, being alone isn't fun. One thing that really kept me going to church, though, was every summer I would attend the Barbara Harris camp. I started going to camp when I was 7. That year was the first year that the camp was open. And my first summer of camp was the best week of the summer that I had. I remember pulling up to camp and being greeted by a great big moose and a friendly staff in the parking lot. I remember telling my mom I wanted to go back to camp the next summer. The following summer, I would count down the days till I'd be going to camp. The day of camp, I would sit in the church pew just so antsy and so excited to get home and finish packing. The whole car ride up, I had butterflies of excitement, just excited to meet my counselors and all the other campers in my group. Camp was a place that I could learn about God, and I had tons of fun with other kids that lived in my state and lived around me. I made tons of new friends and met people from all over the world. Almost 3 years ago, during my second year as base camper, I met one of my best friends, Gracie. Right when we got to camp and met each other, in our small group, we found out that we were really similar. Instantly, we were friends. We did everything together. Sorry. And we have a bond that I don't have with any other friend. Didn't expect to cry, sorry. Okay. I remember Gracie went home early that week. And that night that she went home, I cried like I am now. I'm not a pretty crier. I'm really not. Okay. I cried because I felt like a part of camp was missing for me. Now, every year when we go to camp, we have a countdown that starts 2 or 3 months before. I remember on Facebook, it's always 120 days till we go to camp. Camp is a place that I can be myself, where it's not possible for me to do that at school or with a lot of my friends. At camp, I was able to join diocese youth programs like DYC, and I moved from a churchgoer to a leader. Church and camp are 2 of my favorite places. Why? Because I'm a part of a community full of people that love God and are caring of those around them. When I'm at camp, I feel like I'm a part of something bigger, that I have a second family. The second family gives youth a place to become leaders in the church instead of getting lost. Even more, I have friends at school who are coming from unsupportive families. They don't feel like they're a part of anything. How good would it be for them to go to camp like I did? Camp is a place for those people to experience and love and grow, just like I did. Thank you.
How is Elizabeth's story your story, or the story of the youth in your parish? Has your congregation utilized the Camp and Conference Center? Perhaps kids from your church have attended summer camp. Perhaps your youth have built lasting relationships through all of the diocesan-sponsored youth retreats that happen at the camp throughout the year. Have you seen deepened involvement in your parish life because of the Camp and Conference Center? Perhaps your vestry or a small group from your parish has gone on retreat at the camp, and you've left renewed because of hearing God's stillness and beauty in the New Hampshire forests and the sun glistening on Otter Lake. All of this is available to your parishes, to your kids, to everyone in this diocese. Indeed, we are blessed to have such a rich resource in the Barbara C. Harris Camp and Conference Center.